If you've ever had to manage dozens of individual texture files in a project, you know how quickly things get complicated. This is the Texture Atlas Maker. It's a simple, straightforward tool for merging those separate images into one clean, optimized texture atlas. You can easily configure your atlas size, cell size, and padding. Simply drag and drop your source files and move the images around. Let's dive into the process. First, enter a project name. On export, this name will be used for your final texture file. Next, let's set the atlas size, the overall texture dimensions, and the cell size, the space reserved for each image. Crucially, these dimensions are constrained to be a power of 2, like 512, 124, or 2048, as this is the standard optimization for most game engines. And remember, you can always jump back and change any of these settings later. The next step is simply to import your source textures. I've included a few different ways to manage that. You can click on any empty cell and use the import button to select a file. Alternatively, use the batch import function, which automatically loads all images from a selected folder in alphabetical order. And finally, simply drag and drop files directly from your folder, either one at a time or an entire selection. Next, let's quickly look at editing and fine-tuning your atlas. If you need space between textures, simply adjust the padding value. This adds the specified number of pixels between each cell. You can also customize the background color or set it to be completely transparent. When exporting, you can choose whether to include this color or output a transparent background. To quickly reorganize the layout, just click and drag a texture directly in the grid to swap its position with another. Finally, for non-standard layouts, you might need larger or non-square cells. You can adjust cell size individually by clicking a cell and using the arrows at the bottom of the interface. The cell will resize from its anchor point, which is the selected cell. If you create a specific grid layout you plan to reuse, you can save the current configuration as a preset. This lets you instantly reload your custom grid size and cell placement for future projects. If you need to stop and come back later, you can save your current atlas as a project file. Just go to the project settings and press save and choose your file location. When you reload the project, the tool will automatically attempt to load all your source images, provided their location and name haven't changed. Speaking of source images, if you make any edits to the original files while the tool is open, simply hit the refresh button to instantly load those changes into the atlas. Finally, it's time to export the texture atlas. First, set your export path for where the file will be saved. Next, decide if you want to export using the custom background color you set, or if you prefer a transparent alpha channel. Choose your output format, either PNG or Targa, and hit export. Because the tool defaults to power of 2 sizing, dealing with layouts that don't fit that range, like a 3x3 grid, requires a slight adjustment. In the cell configuration area, you can exclude specific columns or rows from the final export. For example, if your atlas is 1024 by 1024, but you exclude 2 rows, the resulting texture size would drop to 768 by 768. Since 768 isn't a power of 2, you can activate the Override Export Size checkbox and input a correct value like 1024. You can now export your finalized atlas. You can download this tool by clicking the link in the description.